Good morning. It is my pleasure and privilege to introduce the Olentangy Liberty High School Choir from Powell, Ohio, under the direction of Doug O'Neill. Thanks for being here. This is a real treat.
Train a coming, you don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. Don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. Just to save his own. Have mercy on those whose choices grow thinner, so there's no hiding place for the kingdom's throne. Get aboard now.
Wow, what a treat. I think this is the largest choir that's ever been in this building since 1889. So thank you so much. That was so great and so inspirational. Well, welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. My name's Ed Ryder. I'm this morning's worship associate. Our church is a place where you are free to be you. So bring your questioning mind, your expansive heart, your entire self to this beloved community. Our mission is to welcome all with love, to support learning and spiritual growth, to serve our wider community, and to work for justice, equity, and inclusion. Be sure to make sure you read the announcements and inserts in today's order of service, where you can find important information about our accommodations here in the building and upcoming events. The flowers today here are given by Nancy Sawyer, in celebration of her parents' 70th wedding anniversary. Wow, that's exciting. So thank you, Nancy. Also, please note that Dr. Riegel is still looking for people to join the worship associate and adult education teams. More information about this can be found in today's order of service. Before we begin our service, let's take a moment to wave to the people watching from home. So all you folks will be able to go home and pull up YouTube and watch yourself today, okay? And then let's rise and greet our neighbors or say hello in the chat. When you hear our singing bell or bowl, it'll be time to reconvene. Thank you. Our chalice lighter this morning is Assistant Minister Mary Tarbell Green. Thank you, Reverend Green, for being our chalice lighter. The reading this morning is from Howard Thurman, and here are his words. In the quietness of this place, surrounded by the all-pervading presence of the holy, my heart whispers, keep fresh before me the thoughts and moments of my high resolve that in good times or in tempests, I may not forget the good to which my life is committed. And to add a little historical tidbit to this, because I just have to, Howard Thurman, as a teenager, grew up near Daytona Beach, Florida. And at one point during his teenage years, he ran out of money to go to high school and college. So he thought he would write to one of the people that lived in one of these winter mansions in Daytona Beach. Well, he picked out one building, and the house happened to belong to James Norris Gamble of Westwood, Procter & Gamble. And in response to his letter, Mr. Gamble said, yes, I will fund the rest of your education. So Howard Thurman's education was funded by James Norris Gamble through the rest of his high school and college years. So a Cincinnati connection. Our first hymn this morning is number 368. Now let us sing, found in the gray hymnal, Rise as You Are Able.
Well, good morning, everybody. One of these days, I'm going to write $1 million best-selling book for clergy about the psychology behind the empty front row. It's my thank you, sir. Preacher's pet, yes, all right. I've been doing ministry for like 32 or 3 years, and always the front row is empty. I don't know what that's about, but it's just an ongoing puzzlement. If any of you have insight into that, I'd love to hear it. I'll footnote you in the book if you have. You know, churches are a great place for the rumor mill. Does that come as a surprise to you? And so a rumor quickly reached my ears this week that you did not like my purely rational presentation from behind the pulpit last week. You missed me being out front with y'all. And I missed that too. I was just in a mood to write last week, and whenever I write, I just feel I need to be chained to a pulpit. So this week, I'm coming out to hang with y'all again. So it's going to be a very meditative / pensive morning. And so it's going to be not the rational, but the spiritual. And we're going to begin that, even though we're looking at the Psalms today, we're going to begin that with a poem from Rumi, because I do think that the poem is consistent with the themes you're going to hear in the Psalms I'm going to talk about and share with you today. Oh, by the way, let me grab the singing bowl real quick, because the choir is going to need some cue when it's time for them to sing, because they're doing the musical reflection. So your cue will be the second time the singing bowl gets hit. You know, you're supposed to make a singing bowl sing, but we're Unitarians, so we make it cry by hitting it instead. But all right. This is from the Sufi mystic poet Rumi. O God, our intoxicated eyes have blurred our vision, making our burdens heavy. Forgive us. Forgive us. You are hidden, yet from east to west, you have filled the world with your radiance. Your light is more magnificent than sunrise or sunset. You are the inmost ground of consciousness. You, whose essence is hidden, though your gifts are manifest. You are like water, and we are the millstones. You are like wind, and we are like dust. You are the invisible spring, and we are your lush garden. You are the spirit of life, and we are hand and foot. You are joy, and we are laughter. All of our human action is really a continual profession of faith in you, bearing witness to your eternal power, just as the powerful turning of the millstone bears witness to the power of the river. O God, dust settles upon my head and upon these metaphors, for you are beyond anything we can ever think or say. And yet, This servant cannot stop trying to express your beauty in every moment. Oh God, let my soul be your carpet. Let my soul be your carpet.
And so we lift our gaze, not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach our arms out to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all.
Forgive me for all the times I lied.
What a very timely and powerful message. Thank you for that this morning. And that's their last song this morning, so you are welcome to applaud the choir if you'd like. There's one more? They're doing 3? Oh, you're the postlude too. Well, you're going to get more applause then later. Don't always remember my emails as well as I would like. So the Psalms. You don't hear too many Unitarian Universalist ministers dedicating an entire service to the Psalms. But I actually find the Psalms and Proverbs, both from the Jewish Bible, to be an incredibly overlooked source of great wisdom and inspiration. But many Unitarian Universalists struggle with quote-unquote Christian, but also Judeo-Christian theology because, as many of us know, it's a theology that, for various reasons, many of us have rejected. And so when we come to a Unitarian Universalist worship service, it's not the first thing we're hoping for or looking for from the pulpit. But one of the things that is important to me as a Unitarian Universalist is reclaiming those lost sources of wisdom and inspiration away from which many of us have walked in order to become Unitarian Universalists. So this is sort of a sermon where I invite you through experience into a bit of reclamation of these sources of wisdom and inspiration. You know, one of the reasons many Unitarian Universalists reject the Judeo-Christian tradition is because we're an uber-rational group of people. We take words very seriously and very literally. So because we're so literal, when we read or hear things from the Judeo-Christian tradition that don't ring literally true, we tend to reject them and throw the baby out with the bathwater. But you know, Proverbs and the Psalms, one of the reasons I like them is because they're filled with metaphor. And metaphor is not something to be taken literally. So, as we work our way through 3 Psalms today, I want to encourage you to set aside your rational demands relative to what you're going to hear. And try to hear the Psalms as metaphors, poems, maybe even prayers. Because that's what they really were to the people who wrote them. Metaphors, poems, and prayers from a people who had lived through incredible hardship. They are an invocation to God to hold them and stay in a relationship with them despite their worldly troubles. And for that reason, we too can find a lot of solace in these in the midst of our worldly troubles. There's a German theologian, Friedrich Schleiermacher, who is credited with the religious notion of ultimate dependence. And the short version of that is that Schleiermacher pointed out that when our efforts in the world fail us, when we find ourselves suffering trials and tribulations, which may not even be our fault. The Jewish people were held in captivity through no fault of their own. There's always the the ground of being, the spiritual reality of God, to hold us in the midst of trials and tribulations, even when we might lose faith. Ultimately, we can depend on God, says Schleiermacher. So this first hymn is first psalm is Psalm 71. I'm going to read it, and then we're going to have the AV folks play a video of somebody singing it. The Psalms were actually intended to be sung to music, which is another reason you don't want to read them and rationally critique them. And I think when you compare my reading of this psalm to the video where the psalm is going to be sung, you'll immediately get a sense of why hearing the psalms sung is a far more meaningful and powerful experience than simply listening to someone read them. But since we're not terribly familiar, most of you, with the Psalms, I thought it would be a good idea to read this first. Psalm 71. Be to me the rock of my refuge, to which I may always come. That's ultimate dependence. Be to me the rock of my refuge, to which I may always come. Lord, from my youth, upon you I've leaned. From my mother's womb, you're the one who took me. So let my praise be continually of you. Do not cast me off in my aging. Do not forsake me when my strength is spent. Lord, from my youth upon you I have leaned. From my mother's womb, you're the one. You're the one who took me. So let my praise be continually of you. So even in old age and hairs gray, O God, do not forsake me, so I may proclaim your might again to another generation.
Lord, from my youth, upon you I've leaned. From my mother's womb, you're the one who took me, so let my praise be continually of you. Do not cast me
my praise be continually of you. So even in old age and hair's gray, oh God, do not forsake me, so I may proclaim your might again to another generation.
So if you simply read a psalm, your mind will engage it and rationally critique it. Is it true? Is it meaningful? Is it worthy of returning to? The mind has one set of criteria when it tries to engage information. But when I hear that psalm sung, I feel like it engages me at a whole nother level, and that's the level of the heart. And it turns from a claim about the reality of God to a prayer invoking a connection with God. And that is something that's missing in today's modern religious landscape. Our modern religious landscape is very, very mental. But if religiosity has any meaning at all, doesn't that meaning depend upon an actual relationship with God? I mean, consider the universe. You know, a few weeks ago I did this sermon on the awfulness of life, where I talked about the molecular machines that so miraculously run every single one of our billions and billions of cells at every moment, to the incredible mystery of the images of the James Webb Space Telescope, and everything in between, and how miraculous that all is. If there is a God behind that, I don't think God intended to stand aloof from her creation. I think God intended to be in relationship with it, and that includes us. So religion is all about a lot more than the mental appropriation and acceptance or rejection of claims. It's about a heartfelt reaching out to, an invocation of, and a willingness to be receptive to the spiritual domain, which is a safe way to say in UU circles, God. But it only follows that if God is the author of the creation, that God must want relationship with you. We tend not to tend to that relationship, even those who profess to be religious. You know, there's a story in the book of Acts, I think it is, in the Christian Bible, the New Testament, about the Apostle Paul, who I must confess is problematic in a number of ways. But the Apostle Paul was also surprisingly spiritually mature in a number of ways. And he was actually a very clever fellow. And in the story, he's in Athens. And he's in Athens, and he's listening to and debating the Athenian philosophers of Athens. No small feat. Those ancient Greeks were brilliant. And in the place where they would gather, there was an altar to quote the unknown God, which was a real altar that has actually been found. So that much of the story is true. And Paul said to the Athenian philosophers, I see that you have an altar to the unknown God. But I am here to profess to you the knowability of God. That God is not some entity beyond the mind's ability to connect with. God is an entity that is immanently connected to the creation. And through our spiritual practices and understanding, we can know that God subjectively is a direct experience. What a profound challenge to those Athenian philosophers. And what a profound testament to the fact that God is relational. And the different traditions speak of the relational nature of God all the time. In the Hadith, right, the non-Quranic sayings of Muhammad, who often quotes Allah. The Hadith says, this universe is not large enough to contain me, says Allah. Only the heart of my faithful servant can contain me. It's my favorite Hadith saying. What an incredibly beautiful saying about the intimate relationship that's possible with God. And Jesus, in the Gospel of Matthew, are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? In other words, says Jesus, sparrows are cheap. You can get 2 for a penny. And not one of these falls to the ground without God knowing about it. Indeed, all the hairs of your head are numbered. That's an intimate relationship, folks. When I speak of an intimate relationship with God, I speak from what I feel is truthful personal experience. So most of you know that I've gone 5 or 6 times on pilgrimage to this small, remote ashram in southern India, miles away from the nearest village and many miles away from the nearest, what we would consider, significant city. It's called Shantivanam, which means 4 or 5 weeks every 2 or 3 years. And somewhere around my 2nd or 3rd pilgrimage, we were doing our spiritual practice in the rotunda, which is where we would gather to do our mantras and our silent meditation and listen to the teaching. And during one of the silent meditations, I got very frustrated because I had learned over the years that I go only so deep in my meditative experience, and there was a wall there. And I just reached the point of frustration with what I felt was a lack of depth relative to what I intuited was a much deeper experience that was possible for me. But I was one of these rational Unitarian Universalists. So I had to check all of my spiritual teachings and spiritual experiences at my rational door. And I thought to myself, in that particular meditative experience, which I can remember so well, that's my impediment. that need to rationally check everything at the door. That's my impediment. So I decided for the first time in 15, maybe even 20 years, that even though I'm a Unitarian Universalist, I'm going to take this moment and enter into a sincere prayer. And so I offered up a sincere prayer to the goddess. After all, I was in India, where the divine feminine has not been eradicated. And it was a prayer of surrender. And it was a simple prayer. I surrender to you whatever impediments are in me that prevent me from knowing you at a much deeper level. And that was a key to the furtherance of the deepening of my spiritual experience in my meditation practice. And I'm not going to get into the details of those experiences, but the shift was profound when I decided to open up my heart to have a relational experience with the Holy. And those experiences are the very same kind of experiences that the contemplatives across the world religions talk about in their literature, which verified for me the reality that God is real. That's a 2-hour sermon at some point down the road. But getting back to the Psalms, there's a psalm that to me speaks to the depth and the intimacy of our relationship with God. It's the 139th Psalm. We're not going to play this one, but I am going to read it to you. And I invite you, again, to try to stay in your heart space and just listen to the words and avoid the temptation of rising into your head while I read this. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is too high for me to attain. Where could I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall guide me, and you shall hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light around me become night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you. It was you who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes beheld my unformed substance, and in your book were written all the days that were formed for me, when none of them as yet existed. Search me, O Lord, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Doesn't get much more intimate than that. All right, one more. Psalm 73 is what we're going to look at. It's a very important psalm to me. One of the things that is taught across the world religions is morality. What does it mean to be a moral person? And for the sake of time, let's just say to be a moral person means to act in the world, to walk in the world according to divine goodness. In other words, there is an order to the universe of which we are a part, and it is possible to walk in harmony with that order, and it's possible to deviate from it. And this psalm talks about the importance of walking in harmony with it. It speaks about the consolation we can find in God when we're living amongst worldly people who do not walk in harmony and who act in very worldly ways. And if you've been listening to me long enough, embedded in that is the distinction I often make between living from your instinctual life, which will cause you to walk in egoic ways that may not be in harmony with divine intent, versus operating from your essential nature, which is an aspect of the divine and therefore is in harmony with divine intent. So I'm going to read part of this, and it's a smaller part, and it's a modernized version of the psalm, and then we're going to play it, and then I'll read the whole psalm, and we'll wrap up after that. Remembering the words I just said as a prelude to this psalm, hear it through that lens, or hear it through the lens of the tug of war between your instinctual nature and your essential nature or your higher self. I had forgotten, my foot had slipped when I saw the wicked and the arrogant. They had no struggles. Their bodies were strong. They laid claim to a heaven I had forgot. Surely God is good. In the heavens you are everything, and on earth I have nothing if I don't have you. Why does it happen? They drink abundance. Their tongues take possession while I feel punished. I tried to know this, but it felt distant. And then I entered your presence, and it all made sense. Surely God is good. In the heavens you are everything, and on earth I have nothing if I don't have you. Surely God is good.
I had forgotten, my foot had slipped when I saw the wicked, the arrogant. They had no struggles, their bodies were strong. They laid claim to heaven I had forgot. Surely God is good. In the heavens drink abundance. Their tongues take possession while I feel punished. I tried to know this, but it felt distant. Then I entered your presence, and it all made sense. Surely God is good. In the heavens you are everything, and on earth I have nothing if I don't have you. If I don't have you. In the heavens you are everything, and on earth I have nothing if I don't have you. If I don't have you. In the heavens you are everything, and on earth I have nothing if I don't have you. If I don't have you. Surely God is good. Surely God is good.
So I'm going to read the entire psalm. That was a part of it. And then I'm going to say just a few words, and then we're going to close the service. But this is worth hearing. We're in the midst of the political season, and I don't like politicizing the pulpit. I almost never say anything about politics from the pulpit, because I really believe that my job is to help you remain in touch with your higher self. That's what this hour is about for me, so that when you go in the world, you know how to respond to the world from that higher self. You don't need me to tell you. It's better if I can help you remember, so that when you go into the world, you know how other people are showing up and how you want to show up, and you can make that assessment on your own. But given that we are inundated with political messages and political diatribes, and we have this intense election coming up, I want you to hear this whole thing, because I think it puts all of this into context while calling us to remembrance of our essential nature. Surely God is good to those who are pure in heart. And don't read that as those who are pure in heart always get what they want. It's not what it means. Hear it at a deeper level. Surely God is good to those who are pure in heart. But as for me, my feet had almost slipped. I had nearly lost my foothold. For when I saw the prosperity of the wicked, I envied the arrogant. They have no struggles. Their bodies are healthy and strong. They are free from burdens. They are not plagued by human ills. Therefore, pride is their necklace. They clothe themselves with violence. From their callous hearts comes iniquity. Their evil imaginations have no limit. They scoff and speak with malice. With arrogance, they threaten oppression. Their mouths lay claim to heaven, and their tongues take possession of the earth. Therefore, people turn to them and drink up waters in abundance. They say, how would God know? Does the Most High know anything? This is what the wicked are like. Always free of care, they go on amassing wealth. Surely in vain I have kept my heart pure and have washed my hands in innocence. All day long I have been afflicted, and every morning brings new punishments. When I tried to understand all this, it troubled me deeply, till I entered the sanctuary of God. Then I understood their final destiny. Surely, O God, you placed them on slippery ground. You cast them down to ruin. How suddenly are they destroyed, completely swept away by terrors. They are like a dream when one awakes. When you arise, Lord, you will despise them as fantasies. When my heart was grieved and my spirit embittered, I was senseless and ignorant. I was a brute beast before you. Yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand, you guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will take me into glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And earth has nothing I desire but you. My flesh may fail, but God is the strength of my heart. Those who are far from you will ultimately perish. You destroy those who are unfaithful. But as for me, it is enough to be near God. I have made the sovereign Lord my refuge. I will tell of all your deeds. That encapsulates so well for me the struggle of trying to live in a world driven by people whose instinctual natures have run amok and don't operate from their essential selves. And my temptation to get pulled into the same behavior so I can compete on the world stage. But we're called to live from our essential self, even if we're not reaping the world's rewards. Because in the end, it's easier to live in your skin when you live from your highest self, your essential self, your true nature, than it is when you conform to the world. It's a common theme in the world religions. Remember poor Job? Poor Job was smitten. Job was the most righteous person ever to have lived. Yet look at his suffering. And he clung tightly to God. Psalm 23, O yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, thy rod and thy staff will comfort me. Even though trials and tribulations befall us in life, there are deeper machinations at work. This is the lesson of this psalm. There are deeper machinations at work than we understand. So don't assess yourself by how the world operates. Assess yourself by the degree to which you can continue to stay in touch with and act from your higher nature. Let the world go its merry way. I learned a long time ago in my spiritual journey, and I often run into this struggle people have between their egoic or instinctual nature and their desire to live a spiritual life. When I do spiritual direction with people, I have a group of people I do spiritual direction with on an ongoing basis, and I'm constantly reminding them the spiritual journey, or your journey through life, isn't about the ego and its expectations and demands for its satisfaction. Because people struggle with wanting the ego to be satisfied on the journey. And it may not be. It may be very frustrated. But it's not the ego that's on the spiritual journey. It's a spiritual journey. It's not an ego journey. We call it a spiritual journey for a reason. The spiritual journey is the soul's journey through the world, not the ego's. And those are two incredibly different operating systems. The trials and tribulations of the ego on the journey may actually be exactly what the soul needs. Let that sink in. The trials and tribulations of the ego on the journey might be exactly what your soul needs. Because those trials and tribulations contain the deepest teachings. Yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, and afterwards you will take me into glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And earth has nothing I desire but you. My flesh may fail, but God is the strength of my heart. Our last hymn this morning is number 1045. Do you all have the teal hymnal? If you don't, the words will appear on the screen. There is a balm in Gilead. Please rise as you are able. Please be seated, except Mary, would you come up and extinguish the chalice? And you have to be quick because it's a one-liner today. One of my favorite teachers is the Christian contemplative teacher James Finley, who I highly recommend if you're interested in Christian contemplative material. And I once heard him say, actually in an audiobook I listened to by him, he read something that has stuck with me for about a decade now. And I think it sums up today's message very well. Never, ever break faith with your awakened heart. Blessed be, my friends. We have one more from the choir.
It's all
better